I think you'll agree there are far, far worse places to start your ride. Okay, this might have some wind noise, but I'm now on one of my favourite places where you can see the mountains we're heading for. The road behind us. The first impressions, I just got overtaken by Mr. Aero on an Aero bike, and even with basically 2 weeks of doing nothing, a terrible lockdown period, I didn't really have too much trouble keeping up with him. So, and these are not really the most aero wheels or tyres for that matter. So I think with a few tweaks I'm going to do, I'll talk to you about it in a second, it's going to be fast. Right, so this is why I don't like coming up the Poyensa side, Strada. I don't know if you can hear that noise of crickets. It's damn hot here, but I have to say, this bike's doing the climb. The problem is, this side of the mountain some days is like 10 degrees hotter than the other side. So coming down is okay, but going up, I've tested my gears. Got a lovely climbing gear, climb forever on this. But I'm really sorry. But coming up from the Kaimari side rather than the Poyensa side is just cooler, it's in the shade, and generally the cars seem to be in less of a hurry. Even the animals are clearly more chilled. So I'll take this opportunity to talk over some trash talk or other rubbish for my cycling friends here. I'm not wearing a helmet, by the way, because it's a climb, and it really is quite hot in that area. But, you know, tell me in the comments if you think it's wrong to take your helmet off for a climb. I've only had 1 or 2 people tell me that. But back to the point. Which is faster? Obviously, the Strada is faster, but by how much over the Exploro Racemax? And I'm going to get into that right now. Enough kidding around. I just wanted to caveat, this is not the only 2 bits of data that I've taken. I think this is just the most indicative to most people's type of riding. And so you can see this is where I started, in the port of Poyensa. And there are 2 ways up this mountain. The straight line way, which is going straight from Poyensa, and that is on some days at least 10 degrees hotter. And there is a hot wind that comes straight up that valley, which on the way down you don't really mind, but on the way up it can be horrendous. The nicer way is to go through, so I go through the golf club all the way up to Campanet, very nice and quiet, and then we go up from the Sa Batalla side rather than the Col de Femenia. So if we go and look at the climb, Col de Sa Batalla, so you can see I had a terrible, when I first got there, after weeks off and all the COVID stuff, I usually do that in half an hour and did 47 minutes. I'm not trying to make excuses, it's just how it is. Strava is a perfect example of an app that works so much better on the phone than it does. So how do I see just my efforts? Yes, here they are. So you're going to have to believe me when I say which days were which bike, but I do remember that ballpark. But you can actually see the difference between these top 2. This one is the Strada, and I am doing 220 watts at 167 beats per minute, and I did that in 14.7. Here I'm going actually slightly less power. Bear in mind I didn't have the power meter on here, but you can see from the heart rate that, and the how close they are together. I was going slightly less out, and I've only done 15.1 versus 14.7. So arguably, I mean, the difference is very, very minimal here, as you can see. So on a climb, I mean, literally, you're giving very little away, if anything. If we look at the whole ride, the mobile app is so good, and the website is just awful. Oh no, we are back. Right, good. So we want to go to the whole route, view matched rides. So there we are. So this is actually the one I wanted to show you with the relative effort. So if we take these two relative efforts, are the 223 and 230, you can see that this one was on the Racemax and this one's on the Strada. So you're giving away 2.5 kilometers an hour on a ride like that. It's not, I mean, it really isn't very much indeed. Forget the moving time, because on some of these rides I stop to take pictures, etc., and it doesn't necessarily register. But yeah, I think if you look at the relative effort and you look at the times, I think that's pretty much an indicative ride of how little speed you really lose on the Explorer. And bear in mind that on the Explorer I don't have the Aero wheels. I'm pretty sure that when I put the 4540 discus Aero wheels on, that time will come down even more. And also bear in mind that I didn't have my stem as low as I needed to, and my experience of not having the stem where you need to, for example on Richmond Park, is worth quite a lot actually. So I don't want to rattle on anymore. Let's get back to the video. So guys, my GoPro is dead this morning. I don't know if my daughters were using it last night. My Insta360 is having a bit of a fit and needs a firmware update. So here we are, and holding the good old iPhone, which is how I broke my shoulder exactly a year ago today. So this might be a shorter video than usual. As you can tell, I'm not as fit as I used to be. But anyway, this is a lovely climb. It's like 10 degrees colder than other parts. And, sorry, the other side. And mostly in the shade, as you can see, which is doubly appreciated. And I better get on with it. If you can get the beauty of these rocks, this landscape. The peace. This is why so many people come to Mallorca, especially now. It's such a shame to have the bicycle hotels closing. There's not enough people. But anyway, it's been a difficult year. Now, before you criticise me, I am on a climb. Going quite slowly. Surely is stunning. And that road over there. That's where we're headed. And behind that mountain, petrol station where we're going to stop. So this is the cafe at the top of Sa Batalla in the petrol station, which is a landmark for cyclists. And as you can see here, I think it's one of my first rides where I've rewarded myself with a substantial breakfast. These are not part of my breakfast, in case you're wondering. These are some donkeys on a back road between Campanet and Kaimari, just before the climb of Sa Batalla. And as we know, what goes up must come down. So here's the downhill.
Yeah. ¿Que me has sacado media hora?
No, había un taxista gilipollas.
Voy a parar. ¿Te vas a hacer un vientecito de vuelta?